There is a stretch of highway in Canada where women vanish without a trace. Over 400 miles of asphalt cutting through dense wilderness. At least 40 women have disappeared or been found dead along this road. Most were Indigenous. Most were young. And most cases remain unsolved. This is the Highway of Tears. Before we uncover the truth about one of Canada's most haunting mysteries, make sure to subscribe to The Secret Crime and ring that notification bell so you never miss a chilling case. Drop a comment below telling us where you're watching from and let us know which true crime case you'd like us to cover next. We love hearing from our community of mystery seekers. Now, let's step into the darkness. Highway 16 runs for 719 kilometers through northern British Columbia. It connects Prince George in the east to Prince Rupert on the west coast. The road winds through thick forests, past small communities, and across vast stretches of wilderness. To the people who live there, it's simply the highway, the main artery connecting isolated towns. But to the families of the missing, it has another name, the Highway of Tears. Since 1969, when the highway was completed, women and girls have been disappearing. Some bodies were found dumped in the forest. Others were discovered along logging roads miles from where they were last seen. Many have never been found at all. The Royal Canadian Mounted Police officially recognizes 18 victims, but Indigenous organizations and families believe the real number is much higher, possibly over 40 women, maybe more. The exact number may never be known. What makes this case even more disturbing is who the victims were. The majority were Indigenous women and girls, young, vulnerable, from communities with little money and even less help. And for decades, their disappearances were largely ignored. This is the story of the Highway of Tears, a mystery that spans 5 decades, a tragedy that continues to this day, and a mirror reflecting Canada's darkest failures. The disappearances began almost as soon as the highway was finished. In 1970, a young woman named Gloria Moody vanished near Terrace, British Columbia. She was never seen again. That same decade, Monica Ignace, just 14 years old, disappeared from the same area. Her body was found later. She had been murdered. By the time the 1980s arrived, more women were going missing. Delphine Nicole was only 16 when she was last seen hitchhiking near Smithers in 1990. She told her family she was going to a friend's house. She never made it. Delphine's sister, Cecilia Nicole, disappeared just 2 months later, also 16. Also last seen hitchhiking. 2 sisters. Both vanished on the same highway, neither ever found. The pattern was becoming impossible to ignore. Young women, often Indigenous, often hitchhiking, vanishing along a remote stretch of road, but the authorities were slow to connect the cases. Each disappearance was investigated separately. Families were left to search on their own. In 1994, 15-year-old Roxanne Thiara disappeared from Prince George. Her body was found in a wooded area months later. She had been sexually assaulted and murdered. A local man named Brian Peter Arp was eventually convicted of her murder in 1998. But Roxanne was just one victim. The disappearances continued. By the late 1990s, families were starting to speak out. They held vigils, they organized searches, and they began to realize their loved ones shared something in common. They had all disappeared along Highway 16. In 1998, a vigil was held in Terrace. It was there that Florence Naziel, thinking of the families crying over their lost daughters, sisters, and mothers, coined the phrase that would define this tragedy, the Highway of Tears. The name stuck. It captured the grief, the loss, the horror. But even with growing awareness, the disappearances continued. In 2002, Nicole Hoare, a 25-year-old tree planter from Ontario, vanished while hitchhiking near Prince George. She was traveling to see her sister in Smithers. She never arrived. Nicole's case was different. She was white, she was from outside the area, and suddenly the media paid attention. National newspapers covered her story. Television programs featured her case. The pressure mounted. Finally, in 2005, the RCMP launched Project E-PANA, a task force dedicated to investigating the murders and disappearances along Highway 16 and surrounding areas. The project started with 3 cases. By 2007, it had expanded to 18. But critics argue that it took Nicole Hoare's disappearance, a white woman's disappearance, to force police to act. Indigenous women had been vanishing for decades. Their cases were ignored, their families dismissed. It was a painful truth that many couldn't ignore. If Nicole had been Indigenous, would anyone have cared? Over the years, several killers have been convicted of murders along or near the Highway of Tears, but most cases remain unsolved. Brian Peter Arp was convicted in 1998 for the murder of Roxanne Thyara. He is now serving a life sentence. Edward Dennis Isaac was convicted of multiple murders in the area, including the brutal killing of 16-year-old Ramona Wilson in 1994. Her body wasn't found until a year later, in a wooded area near Smithers. And in 2014, Cody Legibokov, one of Canada's youngest serial killers, was convicted of murdering 4 women near Prince George. He was just 20 years old when arrested. His victims included Jill Stuchenko, Cynthia Mass, Natasha Montgomery, and 15-year-old Lorna Brown. But these convictions represent only a fraction of the victims. Project E-PANA continues to investigate, but progress has been slow. Funding was cut over the years. The task force that once had 70 officers now has just 12. In 2013, an RCMP sergeant admitted they may never solve all the cases. He said it would be the people in the communities who would solve these crimes, not the police. That statement angered many families. It felt like the police were giving up. To understand the Highway of Tears, you have to understand the lives of the victims. Most were Indigenous women from poor communities. These towns are isolated, spread across hundreds of miles of wilderness. Public transportation is scarce. For many people, hitchhiking isn't a choice. It's the only way to get to school, to see family, to reach medical care. Poverty is widespread. Drug abuse and domestic violence are common. Many Indigenous families have been fractured by the residential school system and the foster care system. Traditional cultures were disrupted. Communities were broken. Indigenous women and girls are especially vulnerable. Studies show they are far more likely to be victims of violence than non-Indigenous women. And when they go missing, the response is often slower. The media coverage is less. The investigations are weaker. This is what activists call systemic racism, the belief that Indigenous lives matter less, that their deaths are less important, that their families deserve less justice. The Highway of Tears is a symptom of a much larger problem. If this mystery is giving you chills, hit that like button to support our channel. Share this with someone who loves true crime mysteries and wants to help bring awareness to unsolved cases. Now, let's discover what happens next. The Highway of Tears is not just a series of murders. It's a collection of strange and disturbing details that make the cases even more unsettling. Some victims were found miles from where they disappeared, their bodies hidden deep in the forest, accessible only by logging roads. How did they get there? Who knew those remote locations? In some cases, bodies weren't discovered for months, even years. The wilderness is thick. Predators roam the forests. Soft soil makes burial easy. Evidence disappears quickly. There's also the question of how many killers are responsible. Are these the acts of one serial killer? Multiple killers? Or are some cases unrelated, simply tragic coincidences along a dangerous road? Project EPANA investigated whether a single serial killer could be responsible. They looked into Bobby Jack Fowler, an American criminal who died in prison. DNA evidence linked him to at least one murder in British Columbia, but he was never charged in any Highway of Tears cases. And experts don't believe he's responsible for all the disappearances. Then there's the government cover-up scandal. In 2015, it was revealed that BC government officials deliberately deleted emails related to the Highway of Tears. These emails contained information about meetings with Indigenous leaders and plans to improve safety along the highway. A ministerial assistant admitted to triple deleting the files. He deleted them from the inbox, then from the deleted folder, then overrode the backup system so they couldn't be recovered. He later lied about it under oath. The scandal raised questions. What was the government trying to hide? Why were they destroying records related to missing and murdered women? One official was convicted and fined $2,500. But many believe justice was never truly served. Families and activists refused to let these cases be forgotten. In 2006, a Highway of Tears symposium was held in Prince George. Over 500 Indigenous leaders attended. Families of the victims spoke. 33 recommendations were made to improve safety, including better public transportation, increased police presence, and support for Indigenous communities. Some changes were made. In 2017, a subsidized bus service began operating along parts of Highway 16. It runs on alternating days between Prince George and Burns Lake. It's not perfect, but it's something. In December 2024, new cell towers were installed along the highway. For the first time in decades, there is now cell phone coverage across most of the route. It's a small victory, but for families who lost loved ones in areas with no signal, it feels too late. Documentaries have been made. Podcasts have covered the cases. Activists continue to raise awareness about missing and murdered Indigenous women. The movement has grown beyond the Highway of Tears. It's now a national issue in Canada. But the disappearances haven't stopped. In 2018, Jessica Patrick, a teen from Smithers, was found dead. In 2019, Cynthia Martin went missing from New Hazelton. She was later found deceased in 2022. The Highway of Tears continues to claim victims. Today, the Highway of Tears remains one of Canada's most haunting unsolved mysteries. At least 18 women are officially recognized as victims by the RCMP, but Indigenous groups believe the real number could be over 40. Some say it's higher still. The truth is, no one knows for certain. Some cases have been solved. Killers have been caught. Families have received some measure of justice. But most cases remain open. Most families still wait for answers. Project EPANA continues its investigations. But with limited funding and resources, progress is slow. Some cases may never be solved. The Highway of Tears is a tragedy, a failure of the justice system, a reflection of how Indigenous women and girls have been failed for generations. But it's also a reminder that these women mattered, that their lives had value, that their families deserve justice. The highway still runs through northern British Columbia. People still travel it every day, and every day families remember the women who never made it home. The tears have not stopped, and until justice is served, they never will. What do you think really happened along the Highway of Tears? Could there be a single serial killer still out there? Or are these the acts of multiple predators? Let us know your thoughts in the comments below, and if you want to see more dark and mysterious cases like this one, subscribe to The Secret Crime and hit that notification bell. We bring you the stories that need to be told, the cases that deserve to be remembered. Thank you for watching. And remember, the truth is out there. We just have to keep searching for it.